G'day punters and welcome to the preliminary finals preview for Footy Form Guide. I'm your host, Walley, joined as always by my good mate, Harro. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, Wally. I'm really hoping we can get a couple of epic games to get this final series sort of sparked up a little bit.
Yeah.
I did feel like the weekend was, obviously your Hawkies won, which is fantastic, but two pretty boring games of footy, let's be honest. And look, prelims are normally the best games, aren't they? You look back over history, how many prelims that just stand out and produce the best games of the season. So, mate, I'm really hoping we can get something special this weekend.
Yeah, agree, mate. I mean, it was we've had some good games. There was a lot of hope early in the final series in that first week, but I mean, our game wasn't great, and then Gold Coast just didn't turn up. It was like a round 10 matchup or something. I couldn't believe it. So hopefully we see more this weekend, mate. Before we get into some questions and previewing these ones, we'll look at the highs and lows. Geez, it was probably one of our toughest weeks we've had, if we're being honest, Harro.
Absolutely, Wally. Yeah, mate, there wasn't much. Actually, I was really scratching to find bets as well last week's show.
Yeah,
and I think when the best bet is either team to win under 24, I mean, kind of shows that, you get to this time of year, the markets, they have a lot more time just to analyse two games. It can be a little bit tricky to sort of find the strength of bets compared to when you've got 9 games, in a round. So it was a bit tough, mate. I don't have much to crow about after last week. It was a bit of a shocker.
It was. And look, we can talk about this. I think that we missed a few around, obviously, our disposal lines and things like that. Look, it was one of those ones. I think that we've had a pretty good year, Harro. We can put a line through it and move on. And we will, because let's be honest, we're always accountable to what we put out there. But mate, I still had some mates that were able to pick it, that plucked some, and I was like, how'd you do that? Like, send through what you got, because I didn't. But I can assure you, we all felt the pain.
I'll tell you where I did okay, like obviously just personally, outside of the podcast, was actually finding some tackles and marks sort of bets through Dabble. And so I think punters, if you don't have a Dabble, I think they're not too bad. And they've got lots of different markets. And it probably, personally for me on the weekend, that's where I was able to have the most success. So that's probably something, especially with finals, where you're going to find, tackles are up, marks maybe down a little bit, and also offering like loads of different players as well. So, just a little thing for punters to keep an eye on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we can't go into everything. We only have a set amount of time, and we keep looking and researching and doing that closer to the jump. I would say that have a look at Dabble. It's a great shout. Have a look at things. Disposal numbers usually down, marks usually down, tackles usually up, those sort of things, and play around with it. But Dabble's definitely a place you can do that. All right. Let's get into some questions. Mug Wizard, any interesting trends from previous year's Brownlows? Oh, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We are going to do a Brownlow pod, which will be an audio-only Brownlow pod that's going to come out closer to the Brownlow. So any of these Brownlow questions, I will save for that. I'll bank them, and we'll address all those in the Brownlow pod. All right, from Tal, I know uncontested possession players typically down during finals, but can we expect wingers at the G to get a little bump?
Interesting. I've had a look at the matchups on the wings this weekend, and they do look really interesting. I don't expect that wingers are going to be getting their usual sort of easy possessions that you do find maybe throughout the regular season. And also, there's a bit of weather around as well, and that tends to hurt wingers as well. So, especially, in these wetter games, teams often play just one side of the ground. So you can find that one winger might go really well and the other winger might get 5 possessions. And it's really hard to know which one's going to be the one stuck out on the fat side. So, I'm probably looking to more play the unders with the wingers even at the G.
Okay. Any trends of halfbacks versus teams or general defenders versus Geelong, etc.? We'll probably discuss those trends within the games, right?
We can, yeah, but there is something there against Geelong. They don't defend the ball user backman, too strongly.
All right, well, we will definitely look into that.
Yep.
Newcombe copping a glove this week. Obviously, we think that'll happen, but again, we'll address that when we get to the game. I think that is just a no-brainer that Oyster Mullen will go to Newcombe. Do disposals and goals totals change much at the MCG compared to other grounds? Depends which other grounds you're talking about. Obviously, you got Sydney, which is a really wide, short ground, which obviously suits wingers and teams playing on the outside, and you got Adelaide and Geelong, which are long, thinner grounds. Harro, is there any major call-outs with the G?
Well, you can find teams can get more uncontested marks at the G just because of the size of it. So, that's something that you got to think, like players have got to find little gaps in the field, and especially as teams tire a little bit, the ground feels like it gets bigger again. So you can definitely find some more uncontested marks, I reckon, at the G as a trend.
Interesting one from Zav. I like where he's thinking about and how he's thinking about this angle. He goes, would you play Newcombe under disposals into the Cats line and Newcombe over disposals into Hawks head-to-head and try and get basically arbitrage here and just have your result before the end of it, banking on the fact that Newcombe's the barometer. So if he goes over, Hawks win. If he goes under, Cats cover. What do you think?
Yeah,
it feels so risky.
It's not the sort of AFL isn't the sort of game that relies so heavily on one player's performance. No. There's 22 of them out there, and so I wouldn't have thought so. No.
Yeah. The other thing is, just remember he did dominate last year in a game we lost. So the Hawks lost to Port, and he was still the number one player on the ground and covered his disposal line. So it can happen. So I'd leave that alone. But I always love the thinking around that. Louis, how is the season 2025 betting compared to other seasons? More unpredictability, models getting better, any big changes, all of that. Any chance of the cricket pod as well, which we'll look at. In terms of cricket, we'll see what happens in summer. Hopefully we'd love to do something, but that will all depend on time. My biggest thing I've noticed this year, Harro, is our move into the same game multi-space off the back of the +1 promo. That really helped punters this year because you were getting a good price on multis, sometimes overs, and you were getting a one disposal edge as well. And then I think that a lot of people I've spoken to that have had a good year, that was a major player in it. And it definitely was for us in the first half of the season.
Yep. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I think it's all tightened up a little bit now. And obviously they reacted to it, by, I think
blocking every single person on the planet.
Yeah. So this is a thing with it.
My son's 7, Harro. My son's 7. He's already been blocked. They sent him. They sent me an email saying Jack won't be able to have same game multis in 11 years. I said, okay, cool, good to know. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, we are there. So, but look, I think it's been a good season. Just on the models, I don't think the models are at a big advantage anymore. Certainly, you can follow. There's a page that's got all the different models on there. Well, a bunch of people put their models on this website. I think it's called Squiggle or something like that. Anyway, the models used to be at a big advantage because they were producing different lines to what the bookies were most of the time, or a lot more of the time. But now the bookies seem to be setting their lines more based off what the models are spitting out. So that advantage gap is kind of close. And where I reckon the advantage is now is really looking at the factors that influence a game rather than the models or the ratings. I've found, especially being able to oppose teams off 5-day breaks and stuff, models don't account for that sort of stuff. So all of these subjective kind of things, I feel like, is where the advantage is more so now with the team bets rather than where perhaps if you went back a few years, it was the models were really producing good results.
Yep. Very good. All right. How do we respond from a down week like last week? Do we double our stakes or halve them? That's a good question. No, you keep the same strategy we keep every week, which is you stake up on your more confident your more confident bets and you stake down on your speculative ones. There's no change. It's been a good year, and we continue surging forward. Harro, would you agree?
And that's why staking's so important. And like I had a bad weekend on the weekend, but I didn't overstake any bets. And so really the damage isn't too bad. Where if perhaps you charged in and with you made some staking errors, it could have compounded any sort of bad reads. Yeah.
I was tempted to dive into the NRL on Sunday. I'm not going to lie, Harro. All right, Michael Johnson. Yeah, mate, I'm with you here. Hawks win, Pies win. Guinea v Pies, big stage. He wins the norm. I can just see it. Well, we'll see. We'll see next week what the lineup looks like. But wouldn't that? He's had a good year. He's had a good year,
Yeah.
Guinea. Geez, he doesn't get a lot of sort of the best on games. He's had plenty of games where he would have coaches' votes, or he'd be in the discussion, or he'd be in the paper for one of the best. But
mate, his record against Collingwood though is phenomenal. So
it's outstanding. I'm not allowing myself to even think about being there. Anyway, are you guys talking shit about Nick Dacos again? Question mark. Okay, for the final time, I like Harro talks shit about Nick Dacos. I don't. I love Nick Dacos. If there's ever anybody talking about Nick Dacos on Footy Form Guide, it's Harro talking about Nick Dacos, and usually not talking shit. Usually just pointing out interesting facts. But
I'll give you. I'm
an unapologetic lover of Nick Dacos. So, and it's nothing to do with me.
I don't mind Nick Dacos, the player. I think he's a good player.
I think you don't mind a player. I think he's a good person and a player. I don't pot him as a bloke.
No. My issue with Dacos is just how he's perceived by other people.
Yeah.
In terms of when they start talking about him as one of the greats of all time in the same sort of language as a Gary Ablett Jr. or a Chris Judd, or even people putting him in the top sort of 3 players in the competition. I think it's just a bit premature, Wally. And also, I also think that he is. You can't say a bad word about him, or critique his game without getting people really upset about it, which is funny to me. And so it makes you want to do more of it. A little bit like with Indian cricket fans. You just point out something that's not quite right about Virat Kohli's game, and
100%.
You're Satan.
Exactly.
You're
right.
all of a sudden Satan.
Virat Kohli, India will climb all over you. Have a go at Bazball. The Poms get into you. And actually, say anything about cricket and the Poms, who seem to have a problem with everyone playing it within the rules because it's morally anyway. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I'm going to stop myself. But the thing is, there is a lot of this. There's a lot of people you can't get. Yeah. Anyway, look, guys, it's all fun. Everybody's biased. We probably just own it a little bit more than most in terms of us. We know our bias, and we're not trying to hide from that. But no. I know what you're saying, Harro. I do have Nick quite high up in terms of my rankings. I don't know if there's few better than him. The all-time great chat, I don't subscribe to that. But I'm happy to have the discussions around sort of best first 3 years. And I think he's in that Chris Judd chat of the best starting year. Because, mate, to be honest, the only reason he doesn't have 2 Brownlows is an injury and a bloke got 45 votes. So he's had an exceptional start to the year, but I also know where you're coming from. Anyway, enough on dates.
All right, we'll leave that there.
Mate, we're going to have a Brownlow show. You're going to have plenty of time to talk about Dacos.
Absolutely.
Harvey's asked about Brownlow. Yep, we're going to hit Brownlow up. Steve, our man, Stevie's hit. If it's wet Friday night, does that favour one side more than the other? Mate reckons Geelong's better in the wet. If it's dry, Hawks. Hawthorn is an incredibly good wet weather team. I just know that by watching. I watch all their games twice, and I've seen plenty of wet weather footy the last 2 years, and I've seen them demolish sides in it. But I think that the Hawks' speed is actually key. So I usually would prefer it to rain, but against Geelong, I think I'd prefer it to be dry, Harro, because I think the Hawks' speed is is it. I think that I don't think Geelong's known to be better in a condition. I just think that they've put on paper that they're the better football side at this point. They've beaten Hawthorn this year. They've got the better record. They won their qualifying final in such fashion. Geelong are the deserved favourites. But if you're going who's a faster team, I'd say Hawthorn. If you're saying who's bettering the wet, I'd almost say Hawthorn as well. It doesn't mean they're going to win the game. I'm just saying if you start looking at weather conditions, I think you're going to get yourself off track here.
It's hard because you don't get a big sample of wet weather games to look back on, and so that does make it difficult. So you're kind of guessing, I feel like, when you're trying to work out who is the better wet weather side, unless like you've got compelling evidence throughout the year, and how wet's it going to be?
Yeah,
I'm not too sure.
Think it's going to be, is it?
Well, I'm going to be definitely waiting until 5 o'clock Friday afternoon before I start making any calls on the weather.
Anyway, we'll stay tuned on that. How do you decide on stakes or units? I'm better off going larger on small odds bets or combine them. I look again with this purely. It is all about confidence levels. So you're staking how many units you're putting on, how many dollars you're putting on should align with how confident you are on the bet rather than necessarily the price, Harro.
Yeah, and it's also worth, and we've talked about this, we've had segments on the show about this, about the Cali criterion.
Yep.
So Google that, do some reading, and also, modified Cali. So I never go like with full Cali. I'm looking at maybe 50% Cali or 25% Cali, but using that strategy.
Yep, I've got a good one for Zach asking about learnings of the year and edges that used to be present in that. I might save that for next week because I think that there's a lot we can do to talk about the whole year as a whole, and then that we might dig into that, and we do need to get into the games. And like we could talk about St Kilda backs, disposals. You can talk about all sorts of edges that we've seen previously. Mate, let's get stuck straight into the footy though.
Let's get into it.
Geelong's $1.53, the Hawks are $2.52, the Lions 10.5. Over-under's 165.5. The winner goes to the big dance. Friday night at the G. The teams hate each other. Love this. This is the greatest.
Mate, absolutely. So I cannot wait for this, really. What a matchup for a prelim. So hoping for one of the games of the ages. We think back, like, could this be a game like the 99 prelim? Just something epic. That's what I'm hoping for, Wally, because these two teams do hate each other. Now, when we're talking about punting on this, my first thing is be aware of your bias. And look, I clearly want Hawthorn to win, but I don't want to let it cloud my judgment. Okay, so I've tried to be objective as possible with this one, and I've actually got these two sides ranked 1 and 2 out of the remaining sides, and I do think that the premier will come from this match. So let's wait and see what the odds are for whoever they're playing the following week, but I think it's going to come from one of these two teams. And look, when I do go back to just pure ratings on this game, I've got the Cats an 8-point favourite, which lines up basically exactly with the market here. So I'm probably not forcing myself to have a bet on the outcome of the game or the line here. Also adding in that little factor about possible rain, it also muddies the waters just a little bit more as well. Last time they played, Wally, I remember having a chat with you and we talked about this, and we thought that like Hawthorn couldn't have made more uncharacteristic errors and just total fluff-ups along the way, and they still only lost by the 7 points. And we kind of thought if these two teams meet again under similar circumstances, that Hawthorn probably don't make those errors again and maybe get the chocolates. But it was so long ago now, I'm probably not really considering it so much. So what I did want to do here, Wally, is have a look at the key matchups in this game, see if we can find any areas or players to avoid, or maybe it gives us a bit of a sense which way the game can go. So the most obvious one, the one talked about by everybody, is Mullen to Newcombe. My one sort of consideration with that is Newcomb's a really strong overhead mark. And so if he's getting, tagged, I do think that the Hawks, if the conditions allow, will try and use Newcomb's marking ability and kick it to him when he's one out against Mullen, who is, he's a bit smaller than Newcomb as well. So he probably use his strength. But otherwise, it does look like a pretty obvious matchup. Barras to Neil. Okay, I feel like this is a really good matchup for the Hawks. He kept Neil to just the 1.8 disposals last time. And he's a big improver, Neil. Really looks like a good player. But he probably couldn't find a tougher matchup than Barras, maybe in the comp. Battle to Jezza. You see that as the matchup for Jez, Walley?
Yeah, I think if you have a look at the way Battle's been able to restrict players, and there was a fair bit of data going around almost to justify his All-Australian selection. And I was a little bit surprised myself that he was an All-Australian. And then I saw how he stopped a lot of key forwards throughout the year. And the job he does, I think it'll be a little bit of a team effort on Jezza. I think that Sicily gets involved, Scrimshaw gets involved with intercepts in front and really fills in that hole. But I think Battle makes the most sense.
Yeah. But I sort of note here as well, last time they played, Jez did have 5 shots on goal. He was a bit inaccurate that day, but he still managed to 5 shots on goal. So maybe that's a bit of a neutral matchup, not really an edge to either side. Here's one. Yeah, I feel like the Cats have saved Dangerfield up for the finals. We saw him last week have his highest CBAs since round 4 and his highest disposal count since round 8. So I think what they've done there is they've inserted Dangerfield and a little bit of Mullen into the midfield, and they've put Smith and Myers to the side. They've pushed them out, and I think it's great coaching. You really do want your stronger bodies and your braver players in that sort of heat of the contest. And so perhaps you might be looking to play Danger over with maybe Myers and Smith getting pushed to the outside a little bit.
Yeah.
Hardwick to Stengel, I think, is another matchup. I've been watching Hardwick closely. He's bloody good, isn't he?
Yeah,
no one really gets the better of Hardwick when he plays back. And last time these two teams met, Hardwick was playing forward, so I think Hawthorn looked much better with him in defence. Warple and Nash, they're going to play like defensive midfield roles. And you look at what happened last time, they kept both Smith and Holmes really low for their, compared to their season average. And they also had 23 tackles between them. So I expect that to kind of come to fruition again. This matchup I'm really looking forward to, Wally. Dempsey v. Weddle on the wing. Two gun wingers, two, rising stars of the competition. Just really looking forward to that matchup. I don't know who will get the points. Dempsey, he likes to use his marking. Weddle's probably a good matchup to probably negate that, but he's going to keep Weddle on his toes for sure. Jack Henry to Gunston, I think this is a good matchup for Geelong. I feel like with the Gunston matchup, it's not about having a player that's physically, capable to go with him. It's having a player that's clever. And I feel like Jack Henry is probably quite a good matchup for Gunston. So that's an interesting one. Lawson Humphreys to take Watson. I think that's a matchup as well that we'll see. Two really good young players. And they're just going to have – I don't know who's going to take the points on that one, but maybe I'll lean to Watson there. O'Connor to Moore would be the other one. Well, I think it's going to happen. And you look at the players that can do real damage with class for Hawthorn, it's probably Moore, Newcomb, these types. And so I think Geelong, using their tactics that they have done recently, they'll look to shut those types of players down. So that's all of the main big sort of matchups which are kind of obvious to me, which I can see happening. And when I look at it all, there's so many 50-50 matchups, mate, and it kind of lines up exactly with me rating this a 50-50 game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go through what we said we'd do is go through the disposal lines, and you just tell me, give me an answer. Do you want to be over it? Do you want to be under it? Or do you just want to leave it alone? All right, I'll go through all the lines available. Bailey Smith, 27.5.
I'll be under based on last game versus the Hawks and last final.
Holmes, 24.5.
Under, again, I think Nash, Warple, someone will be there trying to stop him.
Stewart, 21.5.
Under.
Graham Myers, 19.5.
This is low for Myers. He's well over that most of the season. He's going to be on the outer a little bit, just leaning over.
Okay. Tom Atkins, 18.5.
I'm quite keen on his overs here. I was so impressed with his last final as well, gun player.
Danger's 16.5.
Yeah, over. Just, as I already mentioned, getting back in the guts.
Our man Sean Manners, 16.5.
I'm probably leaving that one, but I wouldn't mind backing his goals.
Okay, so under for him, but goals.
Probably leaving that, but goals.
Oh, leaving. I thought you said leaning. Leaving that alone. You wouldn't back either side, but backing his goals. Dempsey, 16.5.
Under. Yeah.
Bose, 15.5.
Under.
Zach Guthrie, 15.5.
Leaving. It's well said.
Humphreys is 13.5.
Yeah, no opinion on that one.
Jez is 12.5.
That's actually really low for Jezza. I think he'll go over that. You could see him push up the ground and get a bit of ball too.
Jack Martin's also 12.5.
No idea.
Brad Close, 12.5.
Nothing. No.
And Stengel, 11.5.
Well, he's going to have Hardwick, I would have thought. So probably under, I would have thought, yeah.
All right. For the Hawks, Carl Amon's 22.5.
Over, he's got a good matchup.
Yeah. James Warple, 21.5.
I'm neutral on that.
Okay, so leave. Josh Ward is only 20.5, Harro.
Yeah, good. I like that. That's over.
It's over. Okay, Dylan Moore is 18.5.
Under, I think Geelong will put a lot of work into him.
Yeah, agree with that. James Sicily, 19.5.
Over, he takes the kick out. It's a good matchup.
Yep, great. And that's what we were talking about earlier, Geelong allowing the defensive ball users and the general defenders to have some ball. So Kent's aim on Sicily. Connor Nash is 18.5. He's probably going to have a job to do.
Yeah, I'd be looking to play his tackles more so, I think, than his...
Great. So leave that alone and find tackle markets. Massimo D'Ambrosio, 17.5.
I'd be leaning under, yeah.
And then Josh Battle, 16.5.
Under, I think he'll be really focused on defensive role.
Connor McDonald, 15.5.
No opinion.
Josh Weddle, 15.5.
Over, just see him as a big game player, and he's getting better as he plays more games.
Hardwick, 15.5.
Neutral. Yeah, no opinion.
All right. Lloyd Meek, 14.5.
Probably under.
Okay. Nick Watson, 11.5.
Over.
And Sam Butler, who had a great final last week, 12.5.
Over. Yeah.
Okay, great. There you go. All right, mate, let's move on to Collingwood v Brisbane and whip through this now. Let's go. Collingwood's $1.66. Brisbane is $2.23. The line is a goal. The total over-under is 164.5. We've got two prelims at the G. This is going to be huge.
Yeah. They've had some good contests too, these two teams, in the last sort of 2 or 3 seasons, going back to when the Pies won that grand final. Was it 4 points they won that by? Something like that. Yep. So I felt like the Lions were good last week, but I feel like Gold Coast were bad. And so it's a little bit hard to get a good read on that. I feel like the Gold Coast played their granny the week before against the Dockers. Then I want to look at like the Pies win over the Crows 2 weeks ago. Probably looked really good at the time, but then Hawthorn went over there and were more dominant than Collingwood, against the same opposition. So perhaps I'm rating Collingwood a little bit below Hawthorn based on that. How does that line up against the Lions? Well, the Lions did prove to be far too good for Hawthorn recently as well. So the form, it's not straightforward, and there are only a few games to run through it. But, it's tricky for sure. The thing here, what I think if the Lions were full strength, the Pies were full strength, both off similar preparations and whatnot. I actually wouldn't give the Pies much of a chance at all, but it's just not the case. Okay, so the Lions are definitely missing some key players here. So Neil, we all know how good Lachie Neale is. 36 disposals against the Pies last time. Cut them apart. Hipwood's not a great player. I don't really rate him, but he's a lot better than the bloke who's replaced him, who's a real novice. Answorth and Coleman are two guys that probably are really underrated. And why they're going to be really missed is because it means Starcevic is potentially going to be having to play on like a McCreary or a Hill who's way too fast for him. Okay, so those guys, not big name players, but they are pretty crucial to them. So that's a big factor for me. The other crucial part to this is that the Pies, they're very fresh. They've played one game in 28 days. So those older bodies from the Pies have now had a really good chance to freshen up. And so they're going to be at their absolute best. Yeah. And I think that given these factors, it's probably enough for the Pies to overcome what I see as a stronger side in the Lions. Okay, so we look at last time they met, the Lions were far too strong. They won by 4 goals, 327 points. What's changed since then? Well, it was a midfield domination that night. We no longer have Lachie Neale, who was a big part of that, 36 disposals. The other part that I think is a big factor is Jordan De Goey is now cherry ripe and flying, and he's just a massive bonus for the Pies to have him up and going. And the damage that he can do in that midfield, it really does flip that on its head. Also, I've already mentioned that last time that these two played, the Pies are off a 6-day break where now they're one game in the last 28 days. So they're just going to be a lot fresher than they were last time they played. So we move on from that. There's another bet here there is a bet here that I like, and it's the under 164.5. We've played the unders in Pies games a lot this year, and it's paid off for us really well. We played it in the first week of the finals. It paid off then. The last 4 times these two teams have met, all 4 of them have been under this line, and all of the Pies' last 8 games are also under this 164.5. So I'm pretty keen on that, mate. Moving outside of that, I've got a couple of player bets, and we'll run through the disposals like we did perhaps for the last game. One here I've got is the Big O. He played as basically a permanent forward last week. He kicked 2 points. Look, he's not a very good kick. You might worryingly be needing him to take a mark in the goal square to get your goal. But I feel like at $2.50 to kick a goal or $10 to kick 2, he had 2 shots on goal last week. I don't mind that. And one of my favourite players here, Walley, side bottom, absolute champion. Since round 19, he's gone 2 goals, 0, 2, 0 goals, 2, 0, 1, and 3 goals in the final. He's $2.65 to kick a goal, or if you want to take the big odds about him kicking 2, he's $12. So that kind of rounds out my thoughts on the game. I've got a slight lean to Collingwood again, not looking to play the line or have a bet really on the match, but just given the factors, on form, everything like that, I've got the Lions, but I feel like the factors outweigh the form here, and I think everything points into Collingwood's favour outside of the form, and so I'm probably tipping the Pies to win without a lot of confidence, mate, and a couple of goal kicker bets, Yeah,
nice. And as we always say, footyfgpod on X, we'll tweet something out closer to each game. We'll try and carve out some SGMs in regard around whether it's goals or the disposals that we're looking at here. All right, there's obviously less because we're a game away that are available out there in the market. Start with Nick Dacos, 28.5.
The Lions don't tag. I think he'll go over.
Love it. Josh Dacos, 24.5.
Again, over.
De Goey, 22.5.
Ooh, I want to play his over, but that's well set.
Leave alone then? Leave?
Yeah.
Pendles is 21.5.
Over. Pendles barely ever goes under like 20 at least.
Okay. Jack Crisp, 19.5.
Tough one. I'll leave that.
Okay. Sidey is 18.5.
Yeah, big game player, side bottom. I'll back him. He's fresh. Yeah.
Right. Neglong is 17.5.
Under.
Pat Lipinski, 16.5.
Under.
Schultz, 15.5.
Under.
There you go. Braden Maynard, 15.5.
Over.
Perryman, 14.5.
Over.
Darcy Cameron's 14.5.
Over. Yeah.
Isaac Quaynor, 13.5.
He'll have a job on like a Charlie Cameron. I'll back him under.
Okay, as good as he was first final, let's be honest, mate, he was a star. Having to deal with all that shit too. Over there. Jamie Elliott, 11.5.
Under.
Okay, getting to Brisbane. Hugh McCluggage, amazing year from this bloke. Absolute superstar, 27.5.
Over.
Will Ashcroft, also 27.5. Loves finals, we know that.
Yeah, over.
The bloke that is probably going to win the most tackles for us, 24.5. Josh Dunkley, most tackles for the finals we had him at. Yep.
Yeah, I think he'll have to play on De Goey, won't he? And I feel like he'll probably have a lot of tackles again, maybe not a lot of
He's got to
kicks
get
and
our tackles bet up, Harro. That's what he's got to do. He's got to get our tackles bet up. Dane Zorko, 24.5.
Over.
Zach Bailey, 21.5.
Under.
He finally had a dip. The week we got on him for disposals last week, and he dipped. All right, Fletcher is 20.5.
Over.
As is Darcy Wilmot. Yeah, he's very good player.
Under.
Darcy Wilmot, under?
I think Wilmot will be under. I think he'll play more of a defensive role,
Jared Berry's 19.5.
Over. He rarely goes under.
Now we're getting into some of the low numbers. Cam Rain is 15.5. Jeez, he was good last week.
Yeah, I think over. They'll really want to get him into the play.
Yep. Levi Ashcroft's 15.5.
Over. That's pretty low for him.
Harris Andrews. They're going to send Frampton to him again. Harro, 14.5.
I don't think they will send Frampton to him, but I do think that they will do something with him. He's in great form.
Incredible.
I'm probably leaving that one.
Okay. Karachi, one of my favourites, 12.5.
Under.
Kai Loman with the new dome, 10.5.
Over. And he's a good one for his tackles too. I backed his tackles on the weekend. He did it easy.
Great. And then we've got Brandon Starcevich, 10.5.
Under.
And Charlie Cameron for 9.5 is the last one available.
He's just battling. He doesn't look like anything like the old Charlie Cameron.
No, he doesn't.
I'll play his under.
Carrying something or
he's moving okay. He just can't get near it.
Very rare considering how good he is. All right. That's it, Harro. Okay, mate. It's very hard. We've got 2 games. It's very hard. They're so even. Prelim set up really well. There's going to be disposal angles in these ones. We know that. There's a couple of goal kicker angles. We'll put out more on social. But if you had to lean into a best bet across the board, Harro, what would it be?
I think I'd have to play the under in the Brisbane Pies game. We've had so much success doing that this year. And, I feel like it's another good opportunity.
Absolutely, mate. All right, fantastic. Harro, been great as always, mate. Enjoy the prelims. We will be back. There will be a podcast coming out ahead of the Brownlow with our Brownlow preview that will come out towards the end of the weekend or on Monday morning to have a listen and get all of our thoughts on that. And we'll be obviously on social media across the weekend as well. Enjoy the footy. Good luck to all 4 teams competing. Obviously, a little bit more extra luck to the brown and gold. Thanks, Harro. Have a good one.
All the best.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.